Hello there, and thanks for joining us on the JoyNews channel. This is UpFront with me, Blessed Sultan. President John Mahama, in the early hours of today, has fulfilled one of his flagship promises to repeal the electronic transfer levy, amongst other tax measures, which this government says are obnoxious and not helpful to the Ghanaian economy. Well, that forms part of a broader plan by the NDC administration, which is now giving the people of Ghana a 120-day pact, which the NDC believes will work the magic in resetting the country for prosperity. And there you see the president in your shot there announcing earlier today what he has done, but he's now opening up the Pandora's box on his promises that he intends to fulfill in the next 120 days. Well, here in the studio, we're breaking all of them down for you and looking at what the future holds for the president in terms of his 120-day social pact, knowing that the president has only 40 days as we speak to achieve all of these promises. So let's get to it, because my colleague Isaac Ofieje is joining us in studio, and then we'll tell you about the guests helping us to do the discussion. Isaac is data analyst here at JoyNews, and Isaac, a number of promises are being made, but this is our dashboard and we need to get right into it, because as many as 25 different policy measures, which the NDC administration is promising will go by the end of this month, because next month we just have about 10 days for the administration. What more can we say about what we know?
Well, Blessed, so, I mean, we've been keeping this dashboard trying to, track all the 21 action plans and what he promised to deliver in 120 days. It is interesting to know that within that 120 days, there are subsets of, days that he also put across. So there is the 11 days in there, there is the 90 days aspect, and there's 120 days. Of course, the 120 days is the framework under which he is working. But in terms of the tax scrapping policies, most of them he promised to deliver in 90 days. We counted, and today is day 85. And just like you saw him sign that bill into law, it means that 90 days he gave himself to scrap the e-levy, the betting tax, the COVID-19 levy, the emission tax. That has been partially done because we understand that. I mean, we spoke to the GRA before coming to the studio, and they said, look, the president has signed, but we are now waiting for that law to move from the Jubilee House to the decks of the Ghana Revenue Authority.
And we need to be fast about this so we can hear from, of course, other people who matter on this issue, because the point as well about the e-levy and the others that you keep on mentioning, it's the timeline to it.
Yeah, so 90 days.
What permutations are we doing in terms of how many of them have been achieved and how far?
In fact, if you do the math, currently we are looking at a completion rate of somewhere 45%. He is still on track with a number of the promises in progress, about 30% in progress. So we are estimating that possibly by day 100, President Mahama should be around, let's say, a completion rate of 60%, and by day 120, we should be around 87, because there are some there that he may not be able to complete, especially if you look at the aspects where he promised to, scrap the COVID-19 levy within 90 days. That has gone through actually gone through the budget and also Parliament now, but we understand that it is part of a certain broader VAT, new law. That means that the VAT must be broken down before you can even take the COVID-19 aspect out. That we are sure will not be completed in 90 days. But if we do the math, currently the completion rate is about 45%, and we are estimating that by day 100, he should be hitting somewhere around 60%, and, maybe trying to complete that, whole 120-day social contract in that 120 that he has set for himself. Within that, there are other subsets, but definitely he'll be able to.
Well, Isaac, stay with me. Isaac is data analyst here at JoyNews, confirming to us now that per the projection of the JoyNews research team, President John Mahama may fall short some 13 percentage points in terms of achieving the 120-day social compact. That's our projection. We need to wait because the president still has quite a number of days, 40 days, we understand. But how is the NDC taking all of this, knowing that the grassroots and even constituents of the man I'm about to introduce are on the lookout for these promises to be fulfilled? Fortunate to be introducing now Adam Agbana, who is MP for Ketu North, and congratulations, of course, first time having you join us on set. So we need to say a big kudos to him, of course.
Absolutely.
He's done a great job in the Ketu North area by winning, first of all. We'll talk about your victory shortly, but you're looking at all of these promises that the NDC made, and the question is, it's dawning on you that you promised a lot as a party, isn't it?
Good evening to you and to your producers and all our listeners and viewers across the world. And let me thank you for having me in your studios this evening. In the lead up to the 2024 general elections, President Mahama made some bold commitments to the good people of Ghana. Among the many promises to the good people of Ghana, he decided decisively as president, was presidential candidate then, to attach some timelines to some of the promises. What we now describe as the 120 days pact or promises.
Yes.
We have done 85 days. And I am very impressed by the speed with which the president has delivered on some of these promises. I have no modicum of doubt that by the 120th day, when I get back here to your studios to discuss President Mahama's performance in the 120 days, we will be scoring 100%, because I know for a fact that for the few ones that even work is yet to officially start on, plans are far advanced to have all of them delivered. It is important to state that in the lead up to the elections, trust or trustworthiness of the presidential candidates became a major issue. There was an Afrobarometer report which even stated that Ghanaians trusted President Mahama more than the candidates of the NPP. So trustworthiness is one of President Mahama's key currencies, which delivered the overwhelming, the emphatic victory that we got in December 2024. Knowing him for who he is, as a man who talks and do, as a man who delivers on his words, and how he has started, as a member of parliament, knowing what I know and what I am privy to in the government, I am confident that we are on track, we are doing so well, and by the 120th day, all the promises that we made to be fulfilled within 120 days, we would have fulfilled all of them. We can go into all of them.
We'll go into them, and of course, I'll do your big picks, the ones that you feel work for you the most, and then what you think about them. But to be fair, even the e-levy, you still have some more work to do on that. Yes, you may have repealed it, but GRA has to do some readjustments. It will be gone eventually. You still have some more work to do on these things.
No, I think that, let me start with the e-levy. I think it's important to also understand that for some of these promises, we live within a democratic state where there is respect for procedures and for processes. President Mahama, if he had the power to, on his own, just repeal that legislation, which was the e-levy, he would have done that maybe even on the first day. But we needed to go through a process. I am a member of parliament. It was only last Saturday that we passed the appropriation bill, that we amended or passed the bill to amend some of these legislations. They were sent to his table. Monday was a holiday. Yesterday, Tuesday, was a holiday, so officially the president was not working.
I see.
Today being the very first day, working day, right after these documents were presented to him, here we have it that president has assented to those bills, which means that they have been repealed. All that is left is that a communication, official communication from the presidency will go to GRA and they will start the implementation. That, I believe, may even be completed by close of day tomorrow. And so we are not hard-pressed for time at all when it comes to the issues of the taxes. And when it comes to issues of taxes, there are many other economic policies and tax reforms that President Mahama promised that we have delivered already. Talking about the e-levy, which, like we have said, GRA will do some work on it, and then we are done. We've also repealed the 10% levy on bet winnings, which was also a major campaign promise for us during the election.
I see you're very excited about it.
Very excited because I personally placed my political career on the line. If you go to X, the social media platform X, formerly Twitter, I made a promise in August 2023 that I have spoken to President Mahama, and he is committed to scrubbing the 10% tax. And I believe him, and that I'm putting my career,
on the line.
my political career on the line. And I said that he was going to do that in the first year of his presidency. Here we have it, less than 3 months in office, and he has done that. And so some of us have vindicated.
You're ticking the boxes, isn't it? But how about the criticism facing you now? That you're a young man, you're in Parliament. We should be encouraging others to also go venture into other parts of the economy and not necessarily place their hopes on luck or chances. Are you not encouraging
I think it's important for you to get that the bet tax was never a tax meant to discourage bettors, and there's no data to support that. Governments really had run out of cash, and they just wanted to tax everything. If we had allowed this NPP, the NPP government to continue, probably even sitting here, they would have started taxing us. So they had run out of tax. So they initially implemented the DDP, which they taxed everything, decided to, even our savings, government decided to lock it, take part of our savings. And so they decided to tax bet winnings, not necessarily because there was any scientific data or research that proved that by taxing bets, you were reducing or you were discouraging young people from venturing into betting. Young people who ventured into betting, for many of them, it was a way of betting or taking a risk for survival, because many of them were unemployed. Many of them had no chance of survival.
I'm asking the question, is it not an exchange for what the NDC
So I'm telling you that it's not an exchange because it was not necessarily a tax that reduced or discouraged young people from venturing into betting. And there is no data to prove that when the NPP implemented that tax, the number of young people who were engaged in the business of betting had reduced. If anything, maybe it increased. We still hear many stories of young people who lost their monies to Aviator and all of these other gambles and gambling and betting. Now, that tax, that explanation that it was going to discourage young people was just part of the afterthought of the government. President Mahama has said that let us scrap the tax on bet winnings. When you scrap the tax, what are the other alternative means by which government can employ young people? Many other policies. I'm sure we will get into some of them.
Indeed.
But again, if indeed, and I have always asked this question, even my colleagues from the NPP are not able to answer. I asked them, if indeed the 10% betting tax was meant to discourage young people from betting, why then did the introducers, the initiators of the tax, the bet on tax, the tax on betting themselves also proposed in their manifesto in 2024 to scrap it? Why did Dr. Bawumia also promise to remove the 10% betting tax? Why? Has it gotten to a point where he now realized that it was time to encourage young people to go into betting? No. It was just a nuisance tax. It was just a way a lazy way of thinking that let us tax everything that is available to us. Emissions, we were taxing, e-levy. Bet and any other thing that was taxable, they decided to place a tax on it.
Fortunate you were in Parliament. There's a question on the COVID-19 aspect. I'll come to you on that briefly. But let me also say that Kofi Kranting, a former presidential candidate, the 2024 presidential candidate, independent, of course, is also joining us now. And Kofi, well, you might not want to state your location now, but you're certainly not in the country, I see. But you're definitely seeing what is happening in the country. The president today has fulfilled his biggest promise to repeal all these quote-unquote nuisance taxes. And Adam says, well, the government has indeed fulfilled its promises, especially on the e-levy and the betting tax. And Kofi, you would have to unmute so I can hear you. Kofi Kranting, kindly unmute so I can hear the points you're sharing with us, if you can hear me. Okay. We'll obviously be working on that. Yeah, Kofi, loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. But anyhow, so good evening to your listeners, your viewers, and to our brother Adam in the studio. Blessed, it's been a little while. Hope you're well. Obviously, you look well, so you're doing. I tell you're doing.
Could be better,
well.
Kofi. Just send down the dollars. I'm sure that would do a lot of great deal. Anyway.
So now let's get to it because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But what blows my mind, and this thing could be danced any way you want. The key and the core questions are not being asked. Why do we have to get into taxes in the first place? We don't have any income. And regardless of what Mr. Mahama is doing, which we respect and we want him to continue in that trajectory, the bottom line is, are Ghanaians being relieved of the pressures of life? And it's no. If anything, it's getting worse. So we need to ask the right questions, and we need to do what needs to be done, not just doing things for the purpose of optics and dramatics and theatrics, because that's what we do. The politics of MPP, NDC, it's always this person did this, over this person did that, this person did this.
Yeah, but Kofi, I clearly recall that you had issues with the e-levy, correct?
Of course. I mean, listen, nobody wants taxes, but you cannot tax your way into develop or untax your way into development. The problems are still there, and listen, I talk about the 10 things that I've always talked about during my campaign. I talk about housing. I talk about healthcare. I talk about employment, education, transportation, telecommunication, recreation, security, markets, and a functional central business district. You don't do these 10 things, there's no way you could develop a nation. So, yes, we are looking forward to the exhaustion of the 120-day period, but what can be accomplished in this 120-day if the same people who caused the problem 8 years ago are the same people who we have rearranged to give them the task of coming out with a plan for in this 120-day pact. What are they going to do? It's the same minds.
Yeah, but the difference now is that Ghanaians voted for the NDC. There's a 120-day
I'm not saying they didn't,
plan,
but
and they've even crossed the 50% mark already. These are promises. I mean, tangible promises made to the people of Ghana. They're ticking the boxes, that, as I indicated earlier.
No, of course. Well, because Ghanaians are wired on MPP NDC until we get to a point where we will get unwired. I guess this is what we think we're going to have to deal with, because majority of people voted for the NDC. I didn't vote for the NDC. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, now that we are all behind Mr. Mahama, President Mahama, to fix what's before us, we want to go through a process that is practical. We need income. the undoing of the taxes from e-levy is not going to give us the income for the developments that they have laid out that they want to do for Ghanaians. It's obvious. So where's the money coming from?
Okay, but here's the point. And we'll talk about the alternative shortly. The other issue about the betting tax, for instance, which Adam placed his political lifeline on or career on, now that has also been fulfilled by the president. So are you saying all of these measures will not bring any form of relief?
No, it will not. Based on what they have promised us that they want to do for the Ghanaian people, how much income is coming in? If you took a look and you looked at all the promises the NPP gave Ghanaians, there's no way that income we're getting from not taxing, e-levy and betting is going to be able to do anything. So what I'm saying is we want to build a nation. We just don't want to undo taxes from e-levy and from betting. Do you understand my consciousness? I'm looking for a plan. I don't want to come in here and have a debate back and forth talking about.
It's not a debate, actually.
No. What I'm saying, I'm just making a point. Yeah. But what I'm saying is it should never be about, oh, did Mahama do this? He said he was going to do it and he's done it. Well, what's the result? Is the result going to be able to, release the pressure of the average Ghanaian? Is the price of gobe going to change? Is the price of kenke going to change at the end of the day? So that is what I am looking at. Until we start looking at this holistically in its approach to fixing, we will come in here and talk about taxes over taxes. And at the end of the day, it's not going to mean anything. We have a huge corruption situation on our hands we haven't dealt with. Right. So no matter how much income is coming in, it's all being funneled out through corruption. We haven't solved the corruption problem. But that is a major... Say that again?
Yeah, just land on that.
Yeah. So that is the major issue that we want to be able to have. We want to be able to seal the holes in our constitution. We want to have a national development plan. We want to reduce the size of government. The size of government, we got an impression that the size of government was going to shrink, and just as much as they gave us, some kind of leeway, they ballooned it again.
Okay, I get the point, but these are your frustrations. The critical question you asked about how will this solve the everyday problem, I want Adam to come in on that, because Adam, that's the question that will face you. You're creating further revenue gaps. In fact, there are external issues happening that will even pressure or put pressure on revenue mobilization, ability. And yet the NDC says this is the way out, and taxing, as Kofi's pointing in, our way out of the situation.
The solution to our economic challenges is never and has never been the introduction of taxes. It can never be. It is about the efficient management of the little that we are able to raise. And so if you are increasing taxes, if you introduce new taxes, Ghanaians are overburdened with taxes, and yet you are not managing what you reckon as revenue, then it's just like pouring water in a basket. It can never hold. So President Mahama and Dr. Atto-Forson had a simple solution for the removal of these taxes. For example, Dr. Atto-Forson, in the presentation of the budget, stated that when you save the money, the amount of money that is saved from the leakages, from the bleeding of the system, is more than enough to cater for the revenue gaps that the removal of e-levy, betting tax, emissions levy, and the rest combined or accumulated. It is more than that. So, for example, if you have a country where corruption, according to the Afrobarometer, a country where you are losing close to 12 billion annually to corruption, 12 billion. What is e-levy? 10% back tax, emissions
so how
levy,
you solve that problem? That's what we want to know.
Great. And so as part of the reforms We are only discussing taxes.
Right.
But as part of the reforms, don't forget, we have also within these 120 days amended the Public Financial Management Acts, where we have introduced stricter measures to ensure the protection of the public purse. Yeah. And so,
totally
certainly,
unacceptable.
Yeah, so certainly, government is not only scrubbing taxes, but we have found innovative ways of raising funding to fund development. This is not
the first time we're hearing of
yes.
The NPP administration also came with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, I believe, indicating that, well, they were not going
abused.
So the likelihood of the political class abusing
there was gross abuse of the Public Financial Management Acts under the NPP. And we saw how they created, looted, and shared whatever they did. And we saw, I can go sector by sector. Look, there's one thing that we need to understand. I think that even the government of President Mahama is not being applauded enough. Because in 85 days, we have never heard of a scandal. In 2017, right from the very first day that President Akufo-Addo was sworn in, it started with the messy speech by the president, which all over the world, people raised issues of copyright. You recall that? How plagiarized speech by the president was read to us on his very first day as president. Right from that day, it was one corruption scandal after the another. And look, it got to a point, Ghanaians accepted that instead of delivering one village, one dam, instead of delivering one district, one factory, one constituency, $1 million, President Akufo-Addo was delivering one day, one scandal.
I guess that's why we voted for the NDC.
So in 85 days, you have seen the change. No scandal involving this government. Yes, we're a human institution. We have not done the 4 years yet. But the fact that in 85 days, the government has not been involved in any scandal, as we saw under the previous administration, where every single day, one scandal, they were serving us scandals, they were serving us hot. Scandals every single day.
Let's not exaggerate the problem.
It's not an exaggeration.
It wasn't an everyday.
How many days were they in office? In 8 years. Let's calculate.
It wasn't an everyday.
8 times 3, 5, 6. I can give you equivalent of the number of scandals under them.
Let's be fair.
So the point is that you haven't seen all of that. It tells you something, that there is a certain commitment to giving Ghana or bringing Ghana back on the path of progress. And I see the excitement on the streets. I engage with young people. There is some renewed sense of hope in this country again. Some recent years back, Ghanaians, including you and I, we lost hope in this country. But the leadership we see today is one that has revived the hope in Ghanaians. And for me, that is commendable.
Okay, Kofi.
Going back into the promises, we can go. In terms of the economic policies, I have mentioned the e-levy was scrapped, the emissions levy, 10% levy on bet winnings. You asked a question about COVID levy. With the COVID levy, I have read the budget as presented by Dr. Ato Folsom. In the budget, he stated that government had commenced the process of restructuring the VAT. He even already established a committee. So we have a committee working on it. That is because the COVID levy, unlike the e-levy and the 10% levy on bet winnings, was not a standalone levy. It is part of a certain structure. So he has asked that yes, government is committed to removing it, but instead of just looking at it from that one-sided angle, have a total review of the VAT Act, and let's see how we can restructure it and remove the COVID levy, and that will be done. The process is already in place. And so I know for a fact that very soon, COVID levy will also go. And many others. Like I said, all these things are going through processes.
I see.
In terms of allocation of funding or money for major projects, Ejuma Ra, we saw over 100 million being dedicated to that. We also saw 300 million dedicated to the National Apprenticeship Program, very key program. Now, if you have 300 million Ghana cedis dedicated to a single project, like the National Apprenticeship Program, what you are doing is that the young man and woman that you are complaining about that are busily engaged in betting, today they are going to be recruited as apprentices. And they are empowered with skills where they can earn for themselves. then the betting that you're talking about will reduce, but not with the tax. Again, we saw allocation of money for the 1 million coders program and many others in all these 120 days. I have said
83, you say?
In 85 days, 85 days.
Yes, right.
But I have said, before Kofi comes in, I have said that we have seen governments upon government. Even in my young political life, I have seen presidents show commitment to the fight against galamsey, fight against corruption, fight for development. But what we have experienced within these 85 days of President John Mahama, I am convinced that he came as God sent to bring back this country on the path of progress. I am confident, and I have no iota of doubt, that by the 120th day, all the promises contained in our 120 Pact social contract with the good people of Ghana will be delivered.
I mean, we'll be taking your words for that and watching closely what will happen on day 120. Kofi, and I don't know if you have any alternative position on this, knowing that it's just 85 days. I mean, to be fair to any government.
Let me tell you this. And he sounds like he actually with the MPP, because they all sound the same. It's the same song they all sing. Now, he just made a statement there that President Mahama has reformed the public sector, whatever, with
Financial
the
Management Act.
Excellent. Let me ask you, Adam, is President Mahama going to prosecute the NPP candidates or anyone who they find guilty of some malfeasance? Are they going to be prosecuted, brought to book, and put behind bars?
It's in the 120-day pact.
Wait.
Yeah,
let me finish.
Right.
Let me finish.
Let
me finish.
Apologies for that.
I'm asking you a simple question, and I don't want you to decorate this thing for him. I want a simple answer.
Okay.
Are you going to go after everybody who has stolen monies from the country?
Yes.
MPP.
Yes, we are we are already going after them, and you have my word.
No, we haven't seen anybody being prosecuted. We haven't done any monies back. I see pictures of the MPP with Akufo-Addo doing photo ops. That's what I see. They should not be doing photo ops.
No,
they should not be doing photo ops.
But you see, we live. President Mahama believes.
No.
He believes in justice. He believes in justice.
And
the Constitution allows that until a competent court of jurisdiction pronounces a person guilty, President Mahama or the NDC cannot just accuse or label them as guilty. And so they will be taken through the process. We have done oral. And I can tell you that if you see the oral report, by the time we are done prosecuting people that the oral report has fingered, by the time we are done with all the other adverse investigations or the adverse findings, I can assure you that many top officials of the NPP may be behind bars. But it's only a court that can do that.
Do you have an answer there?
It's only a court that can do that.
Listen, they sound exactly how they sounded when they last came in. And this is what I'm saying, that this is the same record we keep hearing. We know people stole money. Yes, and this is the problem that I have. They hide behind the Constitution with the nonsense about there is a democratic process that they have to go through so they can't go after anyone. Yeah, what do you mean you can't go after anyone? We know they stole money. We know that. We have this situation with this 131,300 containers get missing. We're going to sit and say, oh, we have to go through a court of, whatever.
So what's the point, really?
The point is we have to aggressively go after people who have stolen monies from us and knock corruption out. Till Mr. Mahama is able to knock corruption out, nothing is going to happen in Ghana. They're going to dance around and kiss these people. They're walking around having parties. These are the same people. So don't come back and tell me that...
You want the right of President Akufo-Addo to be taken away simply because he's celebrating his birthday? I mean...
No. But listen, if he's guilty, he's guilty. Has he been investigated? It's an investigation going on to implicate or to find out if the last president administered over a corrupt government. Are we doing that? We haven't done that. We're not doing that.
Okay, Kofi,
I can tell you it's never going to happen.
Tell me otherwise. And of course, I need to know clearly what your position is, because we've seen national security go after even the former central bank governor. The former NSS officials are also on the radar. A number of individuals have been invited by the national security. So what more indication do you want to show clearly that in this 120-day pact, the NDC is indeed committed to fighting corruption as they promised?
All I'm saying is this is the song and dance we hear every time these guys come around. And we're going to have this conversation 3 months from now, and they will not have arrested one person. One person. We're here. And blessed, invite us to come back and have this conversation again. And they're going to prolong the process and tell you that, listen, we have to go through a democratic process. Wyoming is still on the loose, right? Opuni has been released. Opuni has been released.
Yeah, you're not impugning that these people are guilty, are they?
Say it again?
You're not impugning that they're guilty because...
See, this is why sometimes I say the media people, have you read the court documents, why he was picked up in the first place and what happened at Cocoa Board for Opuni to be picked up?
Kofi,
you know how many times he went
Kofi,
to court?
The point is that I'm a journalist and all I can do is to ask you questions.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, listen,
the fact is that these individuals have not been convicted.
Yeah, but you see, but this is the problem with the system. The system is not going to convict anyone. Right. So if you just say that, hey, just because a person has not been convicted, we can't do anything, then there's a problem with the system.
Okay, so
it needs to change.
Right, let's get to this chapter now. Let's talk about 24-hour economy, gentlemen, because that's also on the radar for the 120-day pact.
Yes. Let me just make this statement and leave because I have the next appointment.
I get that. Yes, 24-hour economy.
24-hour economy cannot happen because of three things. We don't have connectivity. We don't have the expertise, competency. We don't have that. Okay, so not unless a society has competencies and complexities and connectivity, a 24-hour economy cannot happen. You cannot legislate a 24-hour economy. The responsibility of every government is to pump in an infrastructure, roads, internet, and all the infrastructure, and then private sector comes in and they expand their base. And as they scale, it overflows in from an 8-hour to a 10-hour to a 24-hour. But the government cannot come in to legislate people into a 24-hour economy. That's not how it happens.
My understanding of the 24-hour economy, 3 shifts, 3 individuals, and 3 jobs.
That's not a 24-hour economy.
It's not?
A 24-hour economy is a multiplicity of industries and companies working synergistically together towards one goal. I've lived in a 24-hour economy for more than 37 years. I know what a 24-hour economy is. We don't have the foundation for a 24-hour economy in Ghana, period. We don't even have roads. We don't have roads. That's the number one thing the Chinese established after they came out of the century of humiliation. Roads. You don't have roads. How you establish a 24-hour economy? What Ghana and the NDC talks about is not a 24-hour economy. It's about increasing output. That's not a 24-hour economy. That's a totally different thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, Kofi. Looking forward to seeing you again. And yeah, we should do this again because Adam would love to. Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah.
But he's certainly not happy about the 24-hour economy.
No, I think that he's, with all due respect, he missed the point about the 24-hour economy. I mean, when you make a point like, because we don't have roads and all of that, but we do have roads in Ghana. We're not saying that Ghana is a developed country. Yes, we have some challenges with infrastructure, but certainly when he was campaigning in 2024, he was traveling on roads. He traveled on roads to campaign. Why? When you're coming to work, did you not travel on a road? Right. When you say we don't even have roads, it's as if Ghana is such, I mean, we have gone past that.
Right.
yes, we may have challenges with infrastructure. We still have districts without hospitals. We have some major roads that needs to be worked on. When you come to my constituency, for example, major agricultural area, we are the largest district, rice-producing district in Ghana. Come to the Veta Enclave. Our roads are bad. This year, government has made an allocation to construct those roads. But you cannot say, because the roads are not constructed, we cannot implement 24-hour economy. In the 120-day social contract, what President Mahama said, and I quote, is that commence drafting needed legal amendments and prepare for implementing the 24-hour economy under the office of the president. What did he do? Even before he assumed office, the very first set of appointments he made, he appointed the very respected economist, Mr. Gusitano, as the director in charge of the 24-hour economy.
But he's yet to come out. What the meaning of the 24-hour policy is, even in the first place. Because in Parliament, for instance, you've heard those on the other side say you have so many definitions for what's supposed to be a simple policy.
You see, sometimes it is okay to do politics with some of the issues, but when it comes to issues that affects the fundamentals of our economy, issues that affect the lives of the Ghanaian people, policies that will bring the needed impact on the life of the ordinary Ghanaian, we must do away with the politics. The minority that claimed that there were thousands or hundreds of definitions of the 24-hour economy. We recently had a post-budget workshop where Mr. Gusitano was a special guest. When Mr. Gusitano came and appeared before Parliament during the workshop, and he spoke about the 24-hour economy, not a single member of the minority could even ask a question. There are two things involved. You question this policy so much. You go about ranting that you do not understand the policy, that even we in the majority do not understand our own policy. You made all these ridiculous claims. Then we invited an expert to speak to us, lecture us on the topic, and you could not even ask a single question. Minutes after, they went back to the media claiming that, even the lecture that was given, they still did not understand. I think that is important. Look, let's agree that ignorance, they say it's a disease. We agree to that, right? But deliberate ignorance is an incurable disease.
Okay, let me put it this way.
You understand the policy, but you deliberately, just as a way of casting aspersions and doubts on the policy, you keep claiming that you do not understand. But 24-hour economy, the question is, what we stated in the 120-day social contract, are we doing it?
I was just going to go that.
Great.
Because if someone in your constituency walks up to you now, as a member of parliament, to say, I mean, someone could sit in a crowd and say, we'll have the big shops working, there'll be more jobs, there'll be 3 shifts. But in your constituency, for instance, what would that mean to me? If someone walked up to you, what were you going to say to the person?
It means a lot. It means a lot because when you come to my constituency, for example, we have the Veta irrigation scheme. A major facility is the second largest irrigation dam in the whole country, servicing farms on about 988 hectares. Government has decided to add value by introducing a rice market and giving to the farmers in my constituency machines for milling and all of that. These machines and these factories that will add value to the rice that we are harvesting can operate 24/7. What it means is that instead of the 9 to 5 work, which will allow a few people to operate, those people will now we can now employ 3 people on 3 different shifts. It doesn't mean...
And this is something that could not have happened before?
No, it couldn't have happened. No,
really? It's just a machine. You start the machine and it starts working,
If there is no deliberate policy by government, just before I entered your studios, I heard the Ghana Investment Promotion Council has introduced 24 hours premium services. But for this policy, by President Mahama. Do you think? Why? Haven't we had GIPC all these years, even under the NDC in the past? Why are they now introducing a 24-hour premium service? There's a certain awareness, certain consciousness that even the mere announcement of this policy has created. Today, my friend Julius Kote, the DVLA CEO, is aggressively embarking on internal transformation, which will eventually lead to 24-hour economy within DVLA. When that happens, the DVLA office in Akachi, which employs some constituents of mine, will now employ 3 shifts.
Okay.
That means more vacancies will be created, and my people can also benefit.
All the institutions
but for the announcement of this policy, they wouldn't have done that.
All the institutions and agencies you're mentioning now are all state-led or state-owned.
Exactly.
The private sector, how do you get them on board? Because you can't go enforce. You can't go enforce someone's business to run for
let me tell you one thing. I can tell you on authority that there are many private companies, businesses that got inspired by the introduction of this policy and have already even started running. For example, this may sound like an advert. When you go to East Legon, okay, there is a shop. They call it Studio 623. I'm just from there. Just last weekend, last Saturday, they launched their 24-hour services. In the letter inviting me to be a part of the launch, they stated that inspired by the 24-hour economy of the government.
Oh, really?
So today, when you go there, Studio 623, just at East Legon, around the American House, they have started implementing a 24-hour economy. It's a private business. Why? Because they got the inspiration from President Mahama's 24-hour economy. Now, what we are doing with the drafting of the legal process is that we want to introduce incentives where private businesses that are willing to be a part of the 24-hour economy can get some incentives. Could be tax incentives, incentive in terms of provision of security, and all of that. And so this is not just a policy for us to do politics with. The impact is already being felt out there. Private businesses are getting on board. Many state institutions are getting involved. I have already mentioned DVLA, where Logos is doing a great job. GIPC has already started. The passport service, we are told, the foreign service, the passport office under the Foreign Affairs Ministry, we are told, have also started a 24-hour economy. Look, where we are today, we needed a leader who thinks outside the box. We needed a leader who will not just play with the existing status quo, but a leader who, with innovation, could embark on pragmatic measures. And that leader is John Mahama. We are seeing it all around us. And so I am confident that the 24-hour economy, when it finally takes off, you will see some changes, even with the structure of our economy.
And then because we need to go,
yes.
I just want you to make your concluding remarks on what to expect, because we have just under 40 days, I believe, for this timeline or deadline to be activated. Well, what are we to expect, and what can you leave the people of Ghana with?
What I can say is that we've not had enough time to look at all the policies, but in terms of education and social welfare, don't forget we also promised to introduce free tertiary education for persons with disabilities. That's been done in the budget, catered for. We launched the Ghana Medical Trust, the Mahama Cares Fund. It's been done to improve healthcare. An 8-member committee was formed to also oversee the National Consultative Conference on Education to build consensus, the National Education Forum. It has been done. We also promised to have a national economic dialogue, which will inform the budget. That was done. And so there are many other things in the area of security. We promised to investigate or institute an investigation into the death of the 8 Ghanaians in the last elections. It has been done, and many others. I am confident that the speed with which President Mahama and his government are moving, we are certainly going to succeed, and everything we promise the good people of Ghana, we will deliver. But more importantly, we also promised to deliver a lean government, and we have delivered that. He said, and Kofi said earlier, and I missed that point, he said, we promised, initially we gave an impression, but we are not delivering. I don't think so. We have delivered the leanest government and the most efficient government. Look at it, 60 ministers that we promised. Even as we speak, we've appointed only 56. Yeah. And all of that. Yes, this issue about this propaganda from our friends in the MPP about the cost. When you look at the budget, certainly the government will spend more on the reduction of the numbers of ministers and the number of ministries from 30 to 23. But what you see as Office of Government Machinery, OGM, and the things that they're talking about. For example, I heard Honorable Kojopo Nkrumah, who used to work with this network, said government has allocated some 50 million or billion to research. What do you don't understand? I mean, I was shocked that that came from him. Because when you talk about research department, it is a department under foreign affairs. You know what they do under our foreign missions. It's not research for the presidency. That's the research department. And he knows that they have so many workers. That includes compensation, goods and services, and all of that. When you come to the Office of the Government Machinery again, they appointed over 300 presidential staffers. As we speak today, President Mahama has only appointed 30 political appointees at the presidency. A ministry that they used to run with over 80 staff. We are running an office with Honorable Felix Ofosu-Kwakye and his deputy and 5 others. Certainly, that will lead to a reduction in the cost of running these offices. So, yes, we have reduced the numbers. Yes, we are more efficient. Yes, government is leaner. Right. And indeed, we are spending less on government, Office of Government Machinery. Right. There are many other things that we have achieved within the 120 days Pact. But at a good time, I'm sure we'll be able to go into all of that.
Grateful for your time. And that's the Ketcher North Member of Parliament, Edem Agbana, joining us here on UpFront. I'm Blessed Sogan. We'll be back, and I promise you we'll do this again. Bye-bye for now.